So I have to explain to you how I've been taught the process of creating a human being from a spiritual point of view. And it is really amazing. And I remember how I struggled to follow all this new information. So I spent most of the week to make an animation for you, which is coming up now. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that makes life a lot easier. Because when I was trained with Malcolm, he had only a whiteboard and 3 colors and was doing his things. And you get nothing in writing. I had to read it all down, no recordings, nothing. So now I want to spare you all of this. However, having said that, you don't need to take any notes while you are listening or watching the animation, because after the animation, I have made an extra sheet, slide, where everything is on, so you can take a screenshot from that, right? Okay, so you can relax, sit back, and enjoy, hopefully. So we are talking today. What is a birth? It is, from a spiritual point of view, a change from the non-physical reality into the physical reality. We are looking at how the human being is created with my animation. We are looking in in depth at the heart, because it has a special place in the spiritual world as well as in the physical world. We are looking at birth energies, what they are and what can go wrong and why, and how we can release trapped birth energies. We will go through the process of rebirthing, both physically and remotely. And we will also look at what Bert Hellinger calls the unterbrochene Hinbewegung zur Mutter, which is translated as, or one of the translation is, the interrupted movement towards the mother, or IMTTM. And this is an amazing parallel or synchronicity with what Malcolm Southwood is teaching about birth energies. So this actually brought me to the understanding that they are both speaking the absolute truth, obviously. And you can sorry, Kate cannot come in. I sent her an email with the link. I don't understand that. Don't understand that. So where did you find the link, Mariella? Sorry.
I had it. It's the email that I got when I sign up for the module 4.
Okay, I just quickly text her that.
She might not. If you send me her email, I can forward it to her. I have it here handy.
Her email is her email is, oh gosh, what is her email again? Let me check. If I see now, I can't check it so quickly. So anyhow, I'm sure she figures it out. I sent an email anyhow. So so I had this flash when I was looking in depth into the teaching of Malcolm Southwood about the birth from spiritual viewpoint and birth energies and what disruptions and problems they create in adults, and then looking at the interrupted movement towards the mother from Bert Hellinger, and it's completely similar. So here we go. We've got 2 complete different methods to solve the same problem. And as you will see, it is working both brilliantly, and some are working better in some circumstances than others. So it's great to have both methodologies at hand for yourself and when you work with others. So hang on, Rocio, I just quickly look up her email, and then maybe you can write her. Gosh, no, hang on, I need to go somewhere else. S, Kate.s, Kate.s at artists.co.nz. Thank you. Okay, so now you can lean back and I talk you through how a human being is created. It all starts with the physical body, then we have the astral body, and then we have the spiritual body. We talked about that in part 1, and here comes Kate. So that has worked. So we talked about that in module 1, and here it comes again. We have the 3 bodies that needs to be combined somehow to create a human life experience. And now I talk you through how this combining happens. So first of all, the most work starts before the birth, because to give birth to a child or to create a human being has a lot of preparation in the spiritual world, because this is absolutely not random, because it comes with a purpose. And it comes in specific means to specific families. So the higher self, which let's call the higher self the spirit, which lives in the world of light, needs to be reunited with its astral body, because it is left behind at the end of the last life, when the spirit goes to the world of life and the astral body goes to the color of the emotion it has become into the astral world, and dwells stored for contemplation with other souls that have the same energies, and has help of teachers and helpers to understand what has happened, how to go from here, and what it can do if it were granted another life in a human body, to raise the frequencies to higher emotional status. For example, from the below 200 anger and grief situation above to reason or acceptance, right? So it can be instructed to do that. The soul wants to do it, but it cannot do it without a body, because the emotions are only created on. So now on the astral body, on the astral level, everything is created, and the goal is to find a mother and a father who has a karma that is in sync with what the soul needs to learn, right? This is all very complicated stuff, and it takes really a while till this is all happening. And it is always a great joy when everything falls together. So maybe the soul found a father and a mother it would like to have, but they don't know each other. They met each other in some worlds. They are probably in completely different life situations. So now, the universe has to find a way to bring them together, even though just for a fling or for a deep love, or it could be as bad as a rape, right? Whatever is in the karma of this person's, aligned with the karma of these persons to become mother and father of the soul, will be served. Nobody will be, made to do anything that is not in line with their own karma. And also the soul has bodies on its astral plane, which he or she wants to meet on earth, to play some role games, which we call drama, on earth, to create an environment where it can evolve, where it can learn from and evolve. And then the physical body needs to be stable and genetically intact, because if the physical body is not able to survive, nothing's going to happen, and all the work is wasted, right? All the work in the spiritual world is wasted. Yeah. So this is why it is really pressure if you look at a newborn child. How much work is behind that to make this happen? So now, how is the process? It all starts, well, with the egg and the sperm. Of course, you know that. And once they have been combined and they are clustering and becoming like a blob of tissues, which all happens in the first week, then a real a wonder happens. There are the first things that you can actually see in an ultrasound or an X-ray that is actually appearing are 2 tubes in this glomerulate of flesh. tubes, and it's tiny, two tubes, and these become the artery and the vein later. And they come at one point together like this, and from this cluster of cells, a heart is created out of nothing. That's the first organ, the first thing that is created in the body. And that is for a very good reason, and the reason is spiritual, not physical. Yes, the heart should pump blood into the vessels and nourish the organs, but nothing is there yet. The heart doesn't need to be so soon before anything else is created. But why do we need the heart? Because it has magic. After 5 weeks, so early as 5 weeks, it starts to pump. And when the heart pumps, what happens with the electric and the magnetic energies that we have in every cell? They are combining to an electromagnetic field. And this electromagnetic field becomes stronger and stronger, and so strong that it finally can attract the soul into the body, so to speak, soak it out of the astral plane into the earth, into the physical world, which happens between week 13 and 16. And when this is successful, then we can actually already talk from a human being that is created. You all know that the pregnancy between in the first 3 months is very unstable, and a lot can happen. This is why the soul doesn't go in that early, because it's also a complicated thing to do. But it waits until this is established and the heart has enough force to pull it out of the astral world into the body. So imagine the soul has second thoughts and say, no, come, I'm scared. Well, now it's too late. Once the heart has the strong electromagnetic field, there's no way out. The soul comes in. So after the soul has combined in week 13, now the spirit can follow its own emotional body and surrounds the body of the physical and the emotional body with great interest and protects it from bad influences that can cause it to fail. And as you might know, it is very unlikely to lose a child after the 17th week. And it would be something like, a silent birth or something, a similar traumatic, which doesn't happen that often. So the spirit is there and protects it and is eager also to join, but it has to wait till the last day of the 40th week when the natural birth takes place. And then in these hours, from 6 to 8 hours, at the very last hour, it goes into the body and surrounds it. And if the birth, and we look at this, takes less or longer than these 6 to 8 hours, or is interrupted or earlier, then we talk about unreleased birth energy. So now in our normal birth, everything is perfect. The spirit goes in and surrounds the body, and yeah, the baby is born, does its first cry. And not only mother and father are celebrating, the whole universe is celebrating this moment. Very happy that they have succeeded to this point. Now we have the human being, and it goes up, and from day one until death, it makes its life experience, and hopefully does what it came for, raising changing into a higher frequency emotion, evolving into that. And then, as you now know, would also mean it changes its color, for example, into yellow, the color of happiness. And so it continues until the heart beats and beats and beats to the last breath and the last heartbeat. And when this is happening, that is what we call death. Then what belongs to earth goes back to earth, and the soul goes to the astral plane, this time to another color, and the spirit leaves the soul behind and goes back to the world of light. So this is a chart that is everything is on I talked about. So please take a screenshot if you want. And ask me a question meanwhile if there's anything right now about this, not galloping ahead, but about what I just talked about that you would like to ask me, what is not clear. Kate?
The significance of the colors. So it's not the full chakra spectrum.
I'm talking about the emotional colors you have learned last time.
Okay.
Had nothing to do with chakras.
Okay.
Although there are similarities, but it's not equal.
Well, green is the color of the heart chakra, I was thinking, and yeah, okay.
Green, yeah. You know the chart. Yeah, I hope you learned it all.
No, I haven't learned it all. I must say, I haven't learned it all.
Werner.
My question is in regards to my own experience. We said that I had a loss, and I wonder when you said in the physical body, the soul comes when it's between 5 to 6 weeks. So I'm a little bit confused.
No,
so
the soul come in after month 3, in month 4, but the soul is of course already there from the moment the parents meet, just not in the body. Okay, so what exactly is your question?
Yeah, it was about if the soul goes into the body between the 5th and the 6th week. Then I had a question. So how comes when the baby has those first weeks, and then we need to count that as a baby? You know, that we should include it into the family and say I have 3 children rather than just 2.
Yeah. That's a good question. Of course, that's an obvious question. The soul is always there, and as I said before, it's preparing this trip very carefully, and so the belonging takes place from early on. The soul doesn't need to be in the body to belong to a family system, and most often it is traumatic for the mother to lose a child, not for the child. And for the mother, it's traumatic from the moment she knows she's pregnant, when she wanted the child, then to lose a child, right? Or to have to abort the child due to circumstances. So when we are talking about a lost child, we are normally talking about the mother who is suffering. If you look at family constellations and representatives that are representing early miscarriages, they are normally sleeping. They are normally not showing any kinds of symptoms, right?
Yeah. In my case,
only the aborted child.
Yeah, in my case, I didn't know about it. I came to know about it in the constellation.
Yeah. Came out in the constellation. That happened. Okay. Who else? Ali. I don't hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened, for example, in a miscarriage when with the soul? Does the same soul comes, for example, in next time or in another time?
Yes, that's very often the case. Yes, because everything has been mapped out so carefully. When something happens with the physical body, and this is why the soul doesn't want to go in there too early, then the soul waits for the next possibility to come in. We see that always in family constellation. If there has been several miscarriages and then a baby was born, that often it's the same soul. That's very common. Doesn't has to be, but it's very common.
Yes. And one more question. When you say the soul is always there from the moment that the parents meet, but what are you talking about specific when the parents meet? Is from the first moment that parents meet or in any specific point?
I said before, on the astral plane, they are sussing out the mother and the father. So the soul is involved in that. So, the whole process is directed by the soul energy. Genau. Okay, all right. So let's go.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you say the soul and higher self, you're meaning that the soul is a different entity as the higher self?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like a different body. Like in
It's a different
Kundalini
body.
Yoga,
It's
we have,
the emotional body. Is the astral body.
so the soul is the astral body and the emotional body,
Yes, that's
correct?
the soul. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, and now I see my screen thingy is all is not sharing again. Why is that? Let me just see if anything happens here. No, I have to stop share. Maybe that was because of the animation. Who knows? Okay, let's do it again. Okay, let's talk about the heart. So the heart is absolutely mysterious because nobody can really explain why it starts to beat, right? Where you know where this is coming from. But however, what is measurable is a strong electromagnetic field that is, as you learned in the previous parts, is coming from electric and magnetic energies. And this is so forceful that it holds all three bodies, the physical body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body together for the whole time that it is on Earth. Also, of course, it has a physical aspect and allows the blood to flow through the veins and the arteries. But if it wouldn't be for the electromagnetic field, also this flow cannot take place because this is not such a strong method that it can actually, by physics, create the pressure that the blood goes in the tiniest vessels of the toes and the fingers. So there's a lot more magic behind than Newtonian will teach us. However, the heart cannot always create the strong magnetic field. For example, when it relaxes or in deep sleep, or when it beats slower, then is the soul attracted back to the astral world, and the spirit is attracted back to the world of light, and we call that the spiritual law of gravity. So that's actually, without the electromagnetic field, they would never be able to leave their planes. This is magic on highest levels, I would say. So in meditation, in deep sleep, and through pranayama, which is the yogic breathing techniques, the heart can be deliberately beat or involuntarily slows down, and the electromagnetic field becomes weaker, and the spirit and soul go on a trip home. But they are still connected through a cord. People who have out-of-body experiences can sometimes clearly see this cord. It has a silver color. So the body never loses the soul or the spirit really in this normal periods when they separate. And we normally don't remember any of this. We are not aware of them at all because it only happens when we are not aware. Other than you have out-of-body experiences or yogic practice to be aware of that. Another fantastic fact is that the tissues of the hands are created from the outer lining of the heart. So the hands are truly extensions of the heart. And this is why it is so important. Our hands are so important, and we use them to heal ourselves and others with the right hand with electric and the left hand with magnetic energies. But we also, we shake hands, we put the hands together for prayer. If you just observe yourself, how often you use your hands in connection to the higher self or to other people, or to you pet your dogs, and what else do? You wash your food and prepare your food. The hands are everything you do with your hands is going straight into the heart, or everything that is pouring out of the heart is going straight into the hand. So that's, I think, very important to know. And then also the heart chakra is a turning point from animal nature to a spiritual being, right? Remember the frequencies. This is all, or the chakra system. This is all happening in the heart. Below the heart, there are frequencies, they are low and earthbound, combined with emotions like anger, sadness, grief, shame, and guilt as the lowest frequencies. And then the heart frequency turns everything up into is more spiritual enjoyment, like happiness and freedom and joy and bliss. And this is all happening in the upper chakras: awareness, seeingness, connection to higher energies. So the heart plays here also the role as a transmitter. I have a book recommendation. It's a wonderful book, Living from the Heart by Nirmala. If you wonder, how can I get more out of my head and live truly more from my heart? How do I do that? I recommend this book very, very much. It is amazing. Nirmala. So, next slide. Birth energies. Now we're talking about birth energies. So, from the moment the birth starts, which could be anything from breaking the water or the first contractions, both mother and child are creating an enormous energy. And this energy is the highest energy that can ever be created on a physical level. And it has to be very strong because mother and child are one, right, when they grow together. And it needs to be a massive, massive endeavor to separate from each other, right? And this is what the birth energies are for. They are full of the energies of separation to make it happen, that the baby leaves the comfort of the womb and goes through this tiny tunnel that feels like death. As you know, tomorrow we talk about the process of death, and this tunnel thingy is kind of synonym for dying. And so the newborn must feel like die when it goes through this tunnel. And so in order to let go, mother and child, you need these energies. Otherwise, they would never do it, and they both would die because the baby grows and grows and grows and never gets out of the body of the mother. So we are talking about how the birth energy is created in a normal birth and what happens with it. Then we're talking about the birth energies in a fast, interrupted, and forced birth. We talk about birth energies and a slow and traumatic birth. We talk about birth energies in an early birth. We talk about cesarean sections and PPD. PPD is a postpartum depression. A normal birth takes 6 to 8 hours. That's normal, right? And just as a personal side note, I gave birth to my son within 6.5 hours. Spot on. And in a normal birth process. It releases a huge amount of instinctive birth energies in both mother and baby. And the baby needs to go through the birthing channel to stabilize the spirit in the body. That's another fact we should talk about in cesarean about. That is important. It's not it's not only physically but also spiritually important. And the baby needs to use up all birth energies by struggling to move out of the womb, and mother uses all its birth energies and power to push the baby out. As you have ever had a birth, a natural birth, or witnessed it, it's a tremendous painful, but it is pain for a reason. It's not the same as cutting your finger off, and you know you're not going to die, and you know it's going to not last. But this is an undescribable force that happens in the mother to push the baby out. The baby has to stay with the mother until the colostrum has been delivered. That's part of giving birth, right? That's still part of giving birth. So in ancient, and not in ancient times, everything was good, but in the at the beginning of the industrializing age, where doctors took over the work of midwives and wanted all the pregnant women to give birth in these hospitals, where they also have sedated corpses, and you know, apply instruments and whatnot to be important. There, this happens then that they take the baby away from the mother as soon as it was delivered and wanted to, you know, do their whatever examinations with it, right? And that's a big problem when you talk about birth energies, because the delivery of colostrum is important for mother and baby to release the last bit of birth energies. So now the baby has a protective shield of light formed by the spirit who came in at birth, at the end of birth, and this is very delicate. It can break when the baby is disturbed, you know, startled, or you know, thrown in the air, or any stupid things like this. So because a mother naturally would never do that, it would absolutely never do that naturally, it is very important that the baby stays with the mother in the so-called, it's a German term, I don't know whether you have that in English, 40 days bed. That means that after giving birth, the mother and the baby stays together for 40 days, and other women or the family or the father, who not the grandmother, is looking after them and cooking for them, and nobody disturbs them. That's the 40 days bed, and that's very healing for the mother and for the baby. Now, the father can be involved in that, but only if he's properly instructed and has the same care for the baby as the mother, right? So then the protective shield for the child is intact, and it will, of course, be breastfed, and it has all the protection it needs to be safe for the rest of its life, basically. From a spiritual perspective, the father is not involved in the birth process or in the afterbirth process, so from there no problems can come. Of course, if the father, I don't know, leaves the mother with the baby in horrible situations behind and not looking after them, this is traumatizing the mother. But from a birth energy perspective, it's not important if he's present. So let's talk about the fast, interrupted, or forced birth. So what is a fast birth, or an interrupted or forced birth? It is a birth less than 5 hours. That's by definition a fast birth. And, you know, women get children in 2 hours. It's kind of like just plopping out. And it's not a good thing. We see that, but they can't avoid it. But there's things we can do to help them. So the birth energies in this cases have been formed. They started to form. They are on its peak, but they are not all released because they need the 6 to 8 hours to be fully and completely released. So the mother and baby are still energetically connected and want to let go of each other. That's a very important point for a family constellation, to complete the separation. So the birth energies are still in the baby and the mother through into adulthood, telling the child, who is an adult now, to let go from the mother. And the mother has energies in her telling towards the child, I have to let you go. I have to separate from you. Can you see the point? It's causing a lot of problems later in life. The spiritual energies presented at birth are designed to last for at least 6 hours. And also the higher self, the spirit, can only come in after the 6 hours. So also when this is not completed, the spirit is not fully integrated into the body, which has also which will also cause problems for the child in later days. The symptoms for a child who is born too fast, has an interrupted or forced birth, are it's a restless baby normally, and later we diagnose these as ADHD. It has nighttime asthma, often breathing problems. It has neck pain and headache. Restless legs, you know what that is? This is just you lie in bed and then your legs are kind of itchy and tickly and annoy you, and you cannot really fall asleep with restless legs. They can develop phobias, especially in tunnels or in small spaces. Most importantly, they have relationship problems. They feel the need to move away from their partners, and they don't know why. They cannot keep a partner. They always feel they have to move away. They can develop food allergies because the digestive system wasn't fully activated, and they often have an allergy against them, which is actually not a bad thing. But anyhow, it's cow's milk I'm talking about. So what happens as well is these children have a fear of dying. They feel, or they are not really grounded, and that seem to be clumsy, kick over things, let things fall and things like that, and then take the blame, but they don't know how to do it differently. They often have narrow shoulders, and they dream of water and houses. And then the important thing that often comes up in family constellations is they feel not being wanted or unloved by the mother, and later they feel not wanted and unloved by the partner. And another sign is they cannot hug the mother. They have a problem to physically hug the mother or give her a kiss or something like that. The symptoms for a mother who is suffering from unreleased birth energies due to a fast, interrupted, or forced birth are difficulties to connect with the baby, which can be as bad as the postpartum depression. It doesn't feel emotionally close to the baby and feels difficult to love the child, which is really horrible and awful for the mother, right? And it has no idea what happened to her. Right? She would be so disappointed after all the time where she was longing for receiving the baby, and then, you know, the love doesn't take place. That's a huge disappointment. She is also wants to push the father away after giving birth often, because this pushing away energy is present and is also extending not only to the baby but also to the close family members. And they often have later a hysterectomy because they want to push out, subconsciously, they want to push out the womb, just to push something out that isn't pushed out yet, if it's not the baby. So what are we going to do in these cases? So as always, we learned from the ancient way of the way how things have been done in ancient time. If a mother had multiple children, which was normal in ancient times, the first one was probably normal birth, 6 to 8 hours, but then the other children, they normally come out sooner. And because they all had this wisdom and knowledge, so what they did, they swaddle the babies, and that's how it looks. You wrap the newborn into tight cloths, and and for weeks you wrap it, not in the same cloth, you change it, but you wrap it all the time into this tight cloth. It's like a clump like this, and you think, oh, that's so cruel, but no, that's so healthy, because what the baby has to do, it has to struggle against the cloth and uses up all the birth energy that it hasn't been used. And once come 40 days and it's unwrapped, whoa, you got a baby which has no symptoms of a fast birth, because that was a way to release it from these birth energies. Fantastic. So this absolutely everybody should do who has a cesarean or anything that interrupts the birth, or when it is naturally but too fast. That's the way to not have an ADHA, well, unrest baby or child, an unhappy child that wants to push you away is a mother. So when this hasn't been done with the baby, please spare your questions till I come to the end of the talk, of the slides, and write it down so you don't forget. So one that this hasn't happened, this newborn hasn't been wrapped, then is not everything is lost. you can still play, or you can teach the mother or the father who has this problem to play the game with the young child, which you call struggle to get free. So they hug the child and then say, come, go out here, try to get out, and they do that very often, every night, several times, until the birth energies is released through this struggle against the arms of the parent. Of course, and that's what we would do, we would work with the adult and we would suggest a rebirthing, which is the method to release trapped birth energies. We can go in a regression with the phobia in adulthood, and that's all with the adult child who has the excess of birth energy. But if we have a mother with excess of birth energy, we do a guided regression to birth, and she can rebirth the child. This time she takes the full time. I mean, you're not working 8 hours with her, but this is on a spiritual level, so it doesn't take that long. And she can release all the birth energies, and this might cause her to scream and to cry or to shout or whatnot. That's all good, or to physically struggle. That's all great. That's all what she should do to release the birth energies. A slow traumatic birth happens when the birth is longer than 8 hours, or the birth had complications. You know, you often have then that the child cannot come out, and you have to have like tools to get it out, or suck it out, or do something which is very traumatic for the child. So in this case, the symptoms are, for the baby or the toddler or the child, they are normally have a poor concentration and a poor reasoning. They spend a lot of time alone. They don't like water or their head underwater, and they are more inspirational than rational. They are also or impatient and aggressive. They show frustrations, fear, and anger. They are fast. They are like the bullies. They push others out of the way. And as an adult, the same bullying, pushing away, is often then observable when they're in a car and they show this road rage sign. They want to be fast. They want to push everybody out of the way and say, go out of my way. They might be coughing or have swallowing difficulties because they maybe had the umbilical cord around the neck, because this causes then the complications in the birth, which is the most common case. They develop a phobia, maybe develop a claustrophobia. They actually could be prone to self-injury because they want to cut themselves open to see blood, because this is the blood they are longing for to finally be birthed, because this is a sign that they are birthed when they see their own blood, right? They are wetting the bed often into grown-up children, or they develop psoriasis even as an adult. These are all signs when they have a trigger, because psoriasis is a phobia. They have a trigger of some sort, and they would develop the signs because it reminds them of the slow birth and that the dry got skin because the water broke 10 hours before, and it was a very painful passage through the dry birth canal of the mother. These children later become heavy shoulders and neck, and they look like this. And then we have the early birth, which is everything before any birth energies could have been developed. You know, you have the in German we say Frühchen. We have the early births that coming out, I think, from week as early as 32, 33, right? And now the symptoms for undeveloped birth energies are, in children, they are quiet and clingy. They have separation anxieties from mother. They need to be they have a need to be held and stay with the mother. They need the mother's energy still. They never stop needing mother's energy. They are not able to live really independently from the mother. And if the mother is negative for some reason, not able to give this energy, then the baby is starving of energy. They are these children who like to pinch, bite, and scratch other people. Have you ever observed a child who wants to do that? You could ask if it's an early birth, early birth, or early birth is this child. You might get the answer from the parents, yes, he was, or she was. The spirit cannot properly incorporate into the body with the energy, so it will surround, it will never be really in, the body will only surround the body, and that is causing problems on its own. It will be difficult to toilet train because it cannot push the poop out, because these energies are not developed and not released, so they are just not present. It's a very passive kind of being. So what do you do with them? If they are children and you advise the parents, they should also play a push game. And this time, the child should push with feet against the mother's belly. You know, that can be a fun game when the children are smaller, and they enjoy that very much, and they will maybe even do that instinctively. So don't push them away. Let them allow to use the feet and push and push and push. That's what they need to develop birth energies and then to release them. You can also, when the children are older, play the rebirthing game, because we go through rebirthing, but with children, it would be more a game that the mother is doing. So you let the child slip through the arms and hold it tight and let it struggle out of the arms repeatedly, which is kind of repeating the birth. Later, as an adult, what you see with the children who were early born, they are long and thin. Often, they have concave breasts. They have shoulders drawn forward. They most often cannot put on weight. They are always late because they always think, no, it's too soon. I can't come. I cannot come. It's too soon. It's too soon. And what we do with them is we do a rebirthing, which we talk about today, and we might have to do it several times. So I had a slow birth. I asked my mother, and it's great. Ask your mothers if you don't know how your birth was. It's so telling. So my mother told me I was born twice. So apparently I came out head and then retract back, and several hours later I came out. So obviously it was traumatic and long, the birth. And when I was in the training with Malcolm Southwood, I think I had at least 2 rebirths. I had 2 rebirths, which was great for me to release this trapped birth energies and traumas. So cesarean section. Now you know why a cesarean section is not a good idea, right? Are you all with me? Yeah. Why is it not a good idea to have a cesarean section, neither for the mother nor the child?
Because the baby doesn't make any effort to comes out in the spirit. The spirit cannot fully be in the body. Is that?
That's correct. That's very correct. And the birth energies are trapped. They are not used. Right. And that's also for the mother the problem. All the problems we just described are happening. So cesarean, cesarean section, of course, there are circumstances. Oh my gosh, there are circumstances where it's indicated. That's not what I'm talking. But the planned birth, you know, in the hospital, to come in 2 days earlier, to have a cesarean, to meet the schedule of the nurses and the doctor, right? That's a problem. And nobody should do that. The birth is still in the hand of midwives in the best hands, right? Still. Okay, let me see. I think, can you write it down, Virna? Because I have 2 more slides and then questions, okay? Write it down, write your questions down. So a cesarean section can either happen when the birth has already started, and that would be an emergency case, and obviously the cesarean section is indicated, and then everything happened that I talked about with interrupted birth. Before the birth has started, which is the planned cesarean section with a lifestyle choice, and not a good one if you ask me, then you have all the problems you see with early births, right? Because the early birth doesn't need to be in week 33, it can be in week 39.5, because if it's too early for the child to come out, it's too early. So all the symptoms come. And what also happened is what we call indigo children. Now let's talk about that for a short while. This term was very common 20 years ago, and everybody was, whoa, people who can see auroras, they saw babies with this blue light, and they thought they are from a special plane, and they are messengers of some sort or something. When I was in the training with Malcolm, he explained about the the color of birth, which is indigo blue. And then it clicked, and I realized that obviously the spirit cannot come in, and because its color, this blue, the birth energy color, is surrounding these children, obviously, because that's the state they are at. Right. So the indigo children are those children who are kind of the first victims of the modern cesarean planned birth thing. And they are quite aloft because the spirit is not fully integrated, and they would be more up in the air and not very grounded. But that is not necessarily a good thing. It's just, you know, unreleased birth energies. So these children having a rebirth, the blue color will disintegrate, and they would be much happier and much more grounded, and much more happy with life on Earth than they are before. Okay. Last but not least on this slide is PPD, postpartum depression. Now you might have you know, a good feeling why PPD occurs, postpartum depression, which is obviously because the birth energies that are trapped in the mother from her birth, you know, which are unreleased, they are triggered when she gives birth to her baby. That's how it looks. Now, all the birth energies that are trapped in her are released, and she wants to be separated from this child. Separation, separation, separation is all she can think of. No, so she's rejecting the child. She's rejecting everything else. She's very depressed, and she cannot connect with the child. It's very tragic. It's very tragic, and this will all stop when the mother has a rebirthing. So hopefully she finds a way to one of you once you're practicing, or to me, or to somebody else who practices and sees this and can be released from it, and then connect with the child beautifully. Fine. Okay, questions now, Werner. Show us your question. Yes, Rocio, you start. Sorry, Rocio's hand was up.
What happens if a baby stays longer than the 40 weeks? Is that a problem? Or because all of this is about the actual birth itself, but what happens if actually stays more time? Is that all right? Or
yeah, it's perfectly fine because the baby's not ready. Yeah, it's not so good for the mother though. The last days are horrible. My son took 6 days longer.
Well, I took almost 2 weeks more.
Yes, and that's not nice for the mother, but no, for the baby, it's fine. It's fine because the baby's not ready. The baby's not ready. Great. This is great. Look, if you would have been forced out by modern medicine with you know, with some injections to induce the birth, you know, you wouldn't be ready. It would be a early birth for you. So you would have the symptom of an early birth because you were not ready, right? Werner, now it's your turn.
So I will say that did I give birth to my children early then, because I had the injections and it was both a C-section. But what happened to those symptoms? Of course, you say the mother is ready, but not the child. Yes. So what happened with this? Because you get that symptom of let's get everything ready because it's ready. You get that feeling of the baby being ready, and you confirm it having a scan and checking that the baby has all the physical body is ready.
The baby is ready when the birth energies come out. That's when the baby is ready. And the birth energies come out when the cervix is opening, starts to open, when the contractions start and the water breaks. That's when the baby is ready, not before.
So, and then what happened in that case when we plan, in the modern days, let's have a C-section, and this amount of weeks are good for the baby and it's safe.
Yeah, I just, just everything I said before. That's
Mm.
what happened. Everything that.
So Maya, I was reading the other day that there is some people that they're waiting up to, I don't know how many days after the water, like the water font breaks. Is that all right or not? Because they said that it's okay for the baby. So it's kind of like a struggle there. Like the baby, it's not ready because it's not coming out, but the water has broken. So what?
I think that's fine. I had the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My water broke and I didn't give birth then I think probably over 18 hours later.
Yeah.
Started.
Me too.
Who too?
I was born kind of late. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine because the baby's ready when the baby's ready, and then unfortunately mother has to put up with it.
Yeah. As long as the baby is not in danger in any way, you just wait.
I don't think so. The doctors tell you that. They tell you that. So my midwife said after 12 hours she couldn't have me in the birth house anymore because by law she's not insured anymore, because blah blah blah. So I had to go to the hospital, which was great, a holistic hospital in just around the corner, which I could continue give natural birth. But that's the point. You are bound to all these structures and laws and so on. But from the I felt great. I knew my baby was okay, and I was okay, and I could have waited. I didn't mind at all, right? But the system works differently, and that's what you have to put up with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nam Shakti.
So my water never broke until I was actually giving birth, but I had contractions and my body was pushing and everything. That's
fantastic.
fine, right?
That's much better for you and the baby. It's much more wet and much more pleasant than when it's a dry thing. Yeah. Anybody else want to share their birth? It's lovely to hear. Giving birth, I mean. Yes, Mariella?
Well, both my children came early, 37 weeks. So they were both fine and healthy, but 3 weeks earlier, or so one 3 weeks and the other one 2.5. And one was 17 hours, which was very long because I started having the contractions and the dilatation, but the water didn't break. So that truly made it quite a long process. In the end, the doctor had to make an intervention to, break the waters. But other than that, it was a natural birth, and it was all good once the waters were broke.
Did she show any signs of the slow birth?
Well, it was.
Is she fast now? Is she one of the faster ones?
That was Ivan. I would say he showed perhaps signs of the early birth. Like I don't know, as a baby he would sleep. He didn't sleep all through the night till he was 3.5 years. So he would wake up literally every 30 minutes, 45 minutes. and that was very exhausting. With the loss of baby.
I bet so.
Today he's the most I don't know, he's super calm and you know, brilliant, and has a very calm personality, but yeah, as a baby and a toddler, it was Amber is the opposite. In her case, she came, it was only a 4 hours birth. So exactly the opposite. The waters broke with me without realizing, almost like, well, all in, and she was coming out, and I was telling I was telling the midwife, you know, she's about to be born, and the midwife, oh, you're hurrying, it cannot be that quickly. And I was like, well, I'll tell you, she's about to be born. And it was opposite kind of experiences.
Yeah, so that's great. So when you get the recording, you might compare the symptoms with what you saw in the children when they were young, when they were early, right? Which would be quite interesting. Okay, I think we better move on to go through everything else that I have here, which is a lot. There was another slide, sorry. You know, well, we talked about that. So what we are doing with a woman who suffers postpartum depression, we are releasing birth energy through rebirthing. So let's talk about the process of rebirthing. The physical rebirthing is when you have actually the client or the person you want to work with, a friend or a family member, with you in a room. Yeah, that's what I mean with physical rebirthing. You only need you two, you and the other. Nobody else is needed. So first you assess if there are any symptoms for unreleased birth energies, and if so, then you set everything up so you have a soft floor, a carpet, or multiple blankets to lie on, and some cushions, and everything needs to be nice and soft. And then you guide your client into the alpha state. We talk about that a little bit later. And then you guide your client to go back to the womb of the mother, and to the right side when it wanted to be born, which will be around 40 weeks, but it could be a different week. It's for the baby. It's the right side for the baby only. And then because she will, the client will go intuitively there to the point. And then you as a practitioner stand behind them, and you are wrapping your arms around the arms and shoulders of the client. The arms inside, obviously, of the client. And then you tighten your grip, you hold close, and you tighten, you make it tighter and tighter and tighter. So then the birth energies will come up, and the client will start to struggle and fall forward, and then slip out of your arms where you hold tighter and tighter, you know, don't let it loose, and like you know, slips out of your arms until it lies, until he or she lies on the soft floor. And then you lie with the client as a representative of the mother, put the client's head in your lap and praise it, what a good girl or boy it is, and it made it, and now it made it completely, and you know, stay with it. Stay with it until the client will probably cry, is completely releasing all this unreleased birth energies. You always keep on praising the client who's a newborn, and you say some very magical words when you say, as a representative of the mother, now I finally have you with me, my beloved baby. That is also very healing in this process. You hold the client warm with lots of blankets. You leave the head in the lap and pet the head and stroke the head and continue praising it until the client is completely calm and released, and maybe sighs as a sign of relief, and then all the birth energies would have been released, and then you come to closing. What we're doing is what I call the spiritual rebirthing is, you do it's when the client is not physically present, so you do the same setup preparation, look for signs of trapped birth energies, go with the client into the alpha state, guide the client back to the time, into the womb, at the moment of the mother, at the moment when it was the right time to be born, again, same, about 40 weeks or less or more, whenever it was the right time. Then you guide the client who is in the alpha state and sits there with closed eyes through this birthing process in the same way. So you let them imagine to go through the birth, kind of feel the grip of your arms, although you're not holding the client, and struggle out and release birth energies. That would be screaming or crying or something like that. And make sure your client is not falling, because it will fall on something hard, and something soft, and that there's a blanket the client can wrap himself in, and lots of cushions and pillows to hug, which would represent the mother and the lap of the mother, right? So it's the same process, but it's imaginary, has the same impact. Releases the same energies. Energies don't need the physical in this way. Energies are unseen forces. So they can be released in this way. What else do we have here? Yep, I go to that. And then obviously the praising. Don't forget the praising. That's very important. To come to the finalizing of the birth process. So you make sure that no separation energies are still present, by accepting as a representative of the mother, the child as now being your baby, your beloved baby, and now safe and well looked after and nourished. So now we come to the interrupted movement towards the mother. First of all, oh no, we do a break. Perfect time to do a quick break, and then we talk about the interrupted movement towards the mother. So if you have questions, please write them down. We talk about them at the end of the break. And it is 16. If we say 9 minutes, would that be enough to go pee and grab a drink? So we say 16, 25. Be back by 25, okay? Yeah? Awesome, see you. Don't forget to stop your videos, guys. Okay, so let's talk about the interrupted movement towards the mother. You all have done family constellations, and we are working with this all the time. It's one of the tools one needs to facilitate family constellations, and it's very similar to rebirthing. It has a little bit of a different twist, and obviously something you can perfectly do in a family constellation workshop situation. The mother is our greatest joy and our greatest obstacle in life. And everybody has the same, have this experience. That is, nobody is free of that. That would be a very rare occasion, right? Because the mother-child relationship is so complex, and when can that ever be perfect? It's kind of too much to be asked for. So when you come to family constellation, you might experience a lot of constellations where you see your mother. And that's how it is. That's how we all start. The mother comes, the mother comes, the mother comes 10 times, the first 10 constellations. You might have a break between, and then the mother comes again. Just appears. And you don't want to do it anymore, but you have to do it because it comes back. And that's totally normal, and that's totally appropriate. Because without clearing the mother relationship, you can't go anywhere. This is the foundation of your physical and spiritual development, is to fully accept them. Even if you have the greatest mother in the world, you still could be an interrupted movement towards the mother, and it will all show up in a family constellation. And it's not just, oh, I do my mother and then I'm done and then I go and do past lives or something. That's not how it works. You have to go with the field and take what you get, and you might get a lot of constellations with your mother. Now, the interrupted movement towards the mother, we're going to look at it. We define it, what it is, when does it occur and how you see it, the signs of it, what you're going to do, and what is about the father. And I hope after all of this, we have time to do an actual rebirthing today. So if anybody of you has the feeling you need a rebirthing, think about it. And when I ask the question, you might be prepared to do it. So let's see, what is the interrupted movement towards the mother? First of all, every child is drawn towards their mother in search of nourishment, care, love, and protection, right? This happens when the birth energies have been completely released and absorbed. Then for the child, there is nothing else than the mother. Wants to go to the mother. There is where food is, there's where shelter is. It's the mother, it's itself. There's no separation between the child and the mother, even when it came out of the womb, if it's not interrupted, right? So if this movement is interrupted, and it could be as early as before birth, it could be during birth, everything we have talked about, or it could be after birth. If this movement is interrupted, this movement in search of nourishment, of care, love, and protection, without the instinct energies, the child wouldn't be able to secure its life. Now, if there's a separation happening, and this is the interruption, which could be totally involuntary, the mother falls ill or dies even, by giving birth or shortly after, or other circumstances, the child is sick and needs to go in the hospital, and in former days there was no space for the mother. The mother was sent home, they were looking after the child, and then 3 months later the mother could grab the child. Things like this is a trauma for the child, because all of a sudden it falls out of the secure cloud of mother love into nothing, because there is in the world of a child, there is nobody else who can look after it. That's the instinct energy. There's just the mother, there's nobody else, right? So this is an interrupted movement towards the mother. The child is traumatized, it's actually afraid of dying without the mother, and loses the trust in the mother to be able to protect it, obviously, because that's what you get then in this situation. We lost somebody here, but I don't know who that is. Hope it comes through soon. So the energy is still there, but here we go. Somebody comes in. Oh, Nam Shakti, here we go. So, okay. So what happens is now is the child is separated from its mother within the crucial first years of its life. So it can only be the crucial first years of the life. When the child is already in a state of reasoning and can ask for help and can question and goes to others and knows the family and the environment, the mother doesn't mean survival to the child anymore, right? But in the state where the mother means survival for the child, if then is a separation happening, that's when the problem starts. So the energy of this movement energy towards the mother, which was before the birthing energy away from the mother transformed into the movement towards the mother, is there, but the child can't go to the mother because she's not there, right? And then this energy gets trapped in the body of the child. When does this happen, this interruption? Well, it's often an accident or an illness of the child or the mother. Child or mother are in hospital, mother dies during birth, mother leaves the family maybe because she has a severe postpartum depression or something like that, or other circumstances. The mother's going away for work for weeks, or the mother is emotionally or physically unable to look after the child. So by the list, and the list is of course longer than that, you can imagine how many children have an interrupted movement towards the mother. situation. That's very common. So from my experience, it's about 4 years. The child between conception, it could be in the womb that this movement is interrupted for some reasons. Up to 4 years, about could be 5. It depends on the child, but certainly when the child goes to school, it would be able to reason and to understand and ask questions, and is not so depending on the mother for nourishment. It happens, that's the other side of the postpartum depression, when the mother is rejecting the child, obviously doesn't want the child with it, so then the child gets an interrupted movement towards the mother. So the mother is in a depression because she has an unreleased birth energy from her own birth that is triggered, and now the child, which may have fully released the birth energies because it was a perfectly fine birth, has now an interrupted movement towards the mother. It's very important to understand in a family constellation situation, when you're working with other people or with yourself, complaining about the mother is not an interrupted movement towards the mother. Yeah, it's the opposite. So the complaining, oh, my mother wasn't good, she wasn't there, I don't know, whatever comes up that somebody doesn't like with the mother is not necessarily an interrupted movement towards the mother. An interrupted movement towards the mother is something you see in the constellation when the child is physically not able to go towards the mother. The representative, not even, the representative is not able to go to the mother. And you see that so often in the family constellation. They're just freezing and they don't want to go to the mother. And then it's an interrupted movement towards the mother. So signs of an interrupted movement are hyperactive children. They cannot get the energy from their mother due to this interrupted movement, so they are hyperactive. They have a disregard for the mother. They are talking negatively about the mother, but also they can't let go of the mother neither. Right? So they feel they need the mother regardless. They are complaining. In a family constellation, that's what I said. They can't go towards the mother, but that's very often they want the mother to come to them. Right? So now you know why you're not going to support that at all. Right? The mother cannot go to the child. The child needs to go to the mother, otherwise nothing is resolved. The energies are not used, so to speak. It has anger towards the mother. And another very, very strong indicator for this is that the client says he cannot stay in relationships. Same as with trapped birth energies. Because the relationship, the partner is representing the mother. Right? So, what are we doing? Well, first and foremost, we have a family constellation workshop, right? So, the mother and the child are facing each other, and you can always use representatives for that purpose, right? Let me just check my mic here.
Maya, we can't hear you anymore. We can't hear you anymore.
Maya, we are not hearing you. We can't hear you.
Check your mic again, Maya.
No, it's not working.
We
No.
stopped hearing you when the slide changed. Try resharing maybe. Is your cord still plugged in? Oh, you don't have a cord.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh gosh, okay. Sorry for that. I have no idea what happened there. Okay, so what was the last thing you heard? Now I have to ask you.
We didn't hear anything from that slide, I don't think.
From this one?
Mhm.
But today the technique does its complete own thing, eh?
Mhm.
I did nothing. I didn't touch anything. So let's go back to the other slide. So did you hear anything about the slide before? Yeah, Rocio is nodding. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, so I go through that again. So what are we doing in family constellation work? The mother and child are facing each other. You can choose representatives for the mother and the child, right? It's not the mother and the child. It's representatives. So the client is the child. And most of the time they will choose a representative. It would be great if they don't and if they would do it themselves, but most of the time they will choose a representative. The mother doesn't move. And if the child cannot move towards the mother, not even an inch, the child has to be smaller, so the child goes on the knees, or the representative of the child goes on the knees. And if it can still not move, it goes, sits down. And if it can still not move, it lies down towards the mother, right? Be as small as possible until a movement is taking place, right? So the energies come into moving in this position, what makes the energies move is often the word please, which the magic word, one of the three magic words, please. So the representative of the child has to say please at least 3 times, if not more often, better in the native language, and like what the child used to say, mom or mama or mutter or whatnot, whatever is the term, right? And then if this is quite hollow and shallow, this please, ask them to do that more from the heart, to find this please in themselves, rather than just saying it. It is important that there is a connection to the heart. So this please can be repeated as often as the first movement takes place. So when the first movement takes place, normally the movement continues, and then the child can reach the representative of the mother and hugs the legs of the mother. And normally then all the energy is released. And lots of crying, which you support, or lots of crying, which is great. Supportive, 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 supportive. And then you tell the child, breathe in all the love from the mother that flows from her heart into your heart, right? Continuously, until the whole energy is used up. You do the same when you work remotely. You just do a regression to the childhood because you have no representatives. So you ask the client to go to the stage where the interruption of the movement was, and of course you guide them in the alpha state and do a regression as we will practice tomorrow, and then the client will be there. And then you let the client see the mother physically in front of his inner eyes, and let him say please, and do the same thing, movement towards the mother, exactly the same. And be sure you're not closing it before this movement has completely finished and all the energies has been released. And instead of hugging the legs of the mother, ask the client to hug a pillow, right? So now we come to troubleshooting, because in an ideal world that would always work like this, but it doesn't. It does not work like this in most of the cases. So what are we doing? Now, what if the mother cannot face or look at the child? That's an oops. You have the child there and wants to start the movement, and then the mother turns away and doesn't want to look at the child, or is very angry with the child and is not ready to receive the child at all. So you have to choose a representative for the mother of the mother, the grandmother, and see if there is an interrupted movement of the mother towards their mother, her mother, and work with that as described before. Maybe not there, then you have to choose more representatives for all the mothers, back to 7 generations, and see where was actually the start of the interruption of the movement. In the 3rd, 4th, 5th generation, could be. Right? And then you work exactly as described before in this generation. And then when the love has flown there, then the child in this constellation can turn around, be the mother of her child, and do the same. And so this is a long constellation, but all the interruptions towards the movements of the mother will be cleared. And then you come to the last one, which is your client or the person you work with. And now the mother will look at the child with love. Yeah, so that's one case, happens all the time. And what is if this doesn't work? That can also happen. So the mother still doesn't want to look at the child, or you don't find an interruption movement towards the mother in all the 7 generations for some reason, then you can look for an entanglement in the family of the mother. So you choose a representative for this emotion that the mother has, an anger or resentment against the child or whatever. You ask, what do you feel? Why can't you look with love? And then she say, something will come up, and then you choose a representative that would be an entangled person, and then you work with this as an entanglement to clear that. Or the mother itself has trapped birth energies and the rejection of the child is still playing up because of that, then you can apply what you just learned to do a rebirthing with the representative of the mother, right? And then see if the mother is ready to open up her heart towards the child. And I think I covered every eventualities now. So one of these methods will work, be assured. So what if the child is not willing to move towards the mother? So first of all, you try this 3-generation mother system as before and see if that works. If it's not working for the client, then you let the client lie down. But telling it at first, it looks very religious, but don't be confused by that. It is very effective. The child lies down on the face, arms out, like a priest in front of the cross, in front of the mother, and close to the feet of the mother, so it can reach with the hands the feet of the mother, right? And let it just breathe in this picture. Just let it breathe, deep belly breath, and something will start to work until the child can actually look up and say please and grab the feet of the mother. And then you take it from there. Repeatedly let it say please. It might not work the first, the second, third time, but probably the 8th time. So don't give up. Let it say please. Let it say please. Suggest a rebirthing also for the client, because that's probably the problem, that there's a separation energy still vile in the child, and it needs a rebirthing. If the child is a boy, there might be an entanglement with a partner. So try that out. If the anger of the child is towards the mother is actually representing the anger of the partner towards the mother, or the anger of an ex-partner towards the mother. So these entanglements happen. And then you remember, if you have done the first 3 modules, we can go to the constellation situation, rather me than you, and clear that on that level, and then work with the interrupted movement as described before. So I think this is also covering 99% of all cases, but there will always be this one case which nothing happens, and then you have to break it up. And on another level, that is karmic, there's karma working. You can't do anything about that. You just have to let it be. No, it's perfectly fine as it is. So what is about the father? I wonder nobody asked this question. You were thinking about it, Rocio. Yeah. So is there such a thing as the interrupted movement towards the father? Yes and no is a clear answer. No, because the birth energies are related to the mother, the nourishment comes from the mother, the care comes from the mother, the instinct energies are towards the mother. But yes, I have seen cases with an interrupted movement towards the father that happens. And it will come up in a family constellation. You cannot completely dismiss it. So if nothing works with the mother, you might try the father and choose a representative for the father and see if that works. Right. So that could be something. So that's the end of my charts. So I can stop the sharing and get you into gallery mode. Here we go. So I can see you all. And now let's ask some questions first, and then we work a little. So, questions.
I have a question
Rocio.
about, you just mentioned about the ex-partners.
Yeah.
So how can that affect, well, if you didn't close that, how may that affect your child? When, you know what I mean? It's why is it affecting the child?
Because the ex-partner are belonging to the family system. So in module 1 of the training, you will learn all about the family members and who belongs to a family system in a family constellation. And the partners and ex-partners can be part of the family system. When they are part of the family system, a child or descendant can be entangled with them. Right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What does partner means though? How, like, because that's what does, like, is that relationship or?
Do you have a specific case in your mind?
No, just in
No,
general,
just
like
okay.
a general time frame.
There's not a general answer because the ex-partner only belongs to the system if there is still some strong energies towards one of the family, the mother or the father. So, for example, somebody who has been dismissed in a not nice way or somehow. So we have also perpetrator-victim situation there in a way. That's always a strong indicator that this person belongs to the system. But there are other cases that can all happen.
So it has nothing to do like with how long the relationship was or
No.
anything like that.
Mm-mm. So no general rules there. No general rules. No, you can't say that. Okay, Kate, you had a question.
Yeah, it sort of follows from there. So the interrupted movement toward the father, would that look like life-threatening, or that that's where the nourishment's coming from, or is there a particular way that looks, or would it just be process of elimination?
Yeah, it's a process of elimination, and that would be probably the last place where you would look. But
Okay.
it can happen, and yes, I can only explain it vaguely. That probably the father takes over a strong role of the provider, like in a day-to-day means, and
being a house father, maybe, and
maybe,
nourishment.
yeah, and the child is used to the father to provide, not the mother, and then the father goes away or something, and then the same energy happens. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mariella?
Oh, in that interrupted movement towards the father, does it have anything to do with the addictions, like we mentioned in the past, or not?
So that's a very good point, Mariella. You have studied very thoroughly the first 3 parts. Yes. Right, addiction at father's face. So if there is an interrupted movement towards the father, you can probably see an addictive behavior in the client. Vilna, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, you mentioned if nothing works, you have to break up. So do you break up the session, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
just say,
leave it
okay,
there.
this is not working.
Well, you don't say it's not working, but you say that's all we can do now.
Ah, okay.
You say, or you say just bird handling, you just said, we leave it here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we leave
Okay.
it here.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain anything. So that's a very important point. We talk about that when we talk about how to deal with workshop situations. You will see that in module 3. So it's a very important point that you are not explaining what you are doing.
No, you haven't. When we have some constellations, you say, we leave it here.
Yeah.
You have
You're
to
not
work
explaining.
this maybe later on in some other
Because every kind of explanation for people who are not on the training, who are actually receiving a healing, if you will, yeah, every kind of explanation will take something away from them. It narrows the effect of the healing energies down, right? Every form of explanation.
Yeah.
So you stay away from explanation. You say we leave it here. We are done for now, and that's it. And no explanation. That's just what it is. And when the client, yeah, why? And then say that's guided by the field. Obviously, we have to break it up here. We have to leave it here. That's what it is. Okay. Any other question?
So it seems like the responsibility of the child is not a 50-50 between the mother and the father, right?
No. The child can live up to the 7th year happily without the father.
Mm.
You know, and then later definitely, you know, more urge to get the father side in, but
Yeah.
not in early years. Or let's say 5. I don't know, 4 or 5, probably not 7.
Because I'm just thinking about the change of feminism and all that stuff now, that they are actually expecting the men to actually take more responsibility of childs as well, and that can play out like.
Also, it's not very natural. It depends on how young the children are and how available the mother still is.
Yeah.
But the father cannot do the same job. That's just impossible. The father is a man and the mother is a woman, and the mother births the child and not the father. So there's no equality in there.
Okay.
They have different roles. Right. That's just a fact. And you know, families make it work for themselves. It's all good. And if it works for them, and then the child has some symptoms, then you can work with them when they are clients. So that's all good. You know, it's just if that's what the parents want, then that's what they do, right? That's all karmic. Has to be. Yay, so we have time. I'm very pleased about that. We have half an hour, and we will do a rebirthing and a rebirthing. We will do a rebirth. Given that one of you wants to have a rebirth. Mariella wants one. Anybody else? Birna, Ale, Gabriele. Peter was here. Oh, cool. So we have enough. So I go with Mariella because it was the first with the hands up. And then if you have time for a second one, we do a second one. Yeah. And I will choose blindly whom. All right. So Gabriela, please unmute yourself. Okay. So, do you know anything about your birth? What have you been told?
I have been told that I was born after 37 weeks, but I only learned that when my first child was late. So my mom told me then, like she never told me before.
So 3 weeks early.
3 weeks early. And I was a very lightweight baby. I was 2.5 kgs.
Yeah.
My mom, it was a natural birth, but she was cut and she needed stitches afterwards. So she found it invasive somehow. Yeah, she didn't
How
find it.
long was the birth? Do you know that?
No, I do not know how long was that. But I know the doctor it wasn't a midwife, it was a doctor. And so in his mind, women that scream are screaming like animals or cows. So he didn't like the idea of suffering. So she was given drugs, like taking all that in his mind was, I don't know, too too physical in a way. So she was cut. She received this the drug without even asking, right? She wasn't given choices. My mom felt she wasn't given any choices. The doctor made all the choices for her.
So and how can you remember, or how was your first remembrance of the mother? Did you feel very close to her or more distant? Or
I feel very close to my mom today, and I always did. She couldn't breastfeed me, and she couldn't breastfeed any of my siblings either. I could though. I didn't have any trouble with that. Yes.
Okay. Have you, when you read through the list of symptoms, found anything that you think, that sounds like me?
Well, I think there was something about lightweight and being a bit. I don't know. I suppose sometimes I wonder how, if I'm not sure. I'm not sure. A few things I did read, but I'm not sure if I can connect them clearly. Yeah.
No, that's fine. You don't need to. We do it anyhow. That was just that was just the introduction. What you would normally do with your client. Okay. Right. Let's work. So please sit upright and make sure. In which situation are you? Are you not too close to a desk, or can you just slip from your chair? Is that comfortable? Do you have a blanket and a cushion somewhere close? Yeah. Okay. Remember, when you feel the need to slip down, that you adjust your screen so we can see you. Otherwise, you are out of sight. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So let's sit upright. And you can all do actually the same, right? You can jump in and do rebirthing for yourself if you want to. So sit upright, close your eyes, and start to breathe into your belly. Deep belly breath. Inhale into the belly pops out, and then you exhale, drawing the belly in. Continue, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, the heartbeat slowing down, and you breathe out. Be very comfortable. Breathe in. And with every breath, you sink deeper into your inner self of happiness, freedom, tranquility, peace, where all thoughts drop away, all excitements, all worries. It's only you in your happy space. And from there, you go back in time. You're getting younger and younger, smaller and smaller, until you are back in the womb of your mother. And you feel the room around you is so tight. You cannot move. Your head is down, pushing against the wall. You hear the heartbeat of the mother. You hear your own heartbeat. It's racing. You're scared, but excited at the same time. And the wall is coming closer and closer. And you feel it squeezing your body everywhere. And you know you have to leave, but you don't want to. You want to give up this cozy space. But there's absolutely no space anymore left. And the force is so forceful, pushing you. You can't resist. And you give in. And the wall in front of you magically opens and allows your head to slowly come through. And you have to wiggle and struggle and kick. You would like to scream, but nothing is heard. And you're struggling and squeezing, and your shoulders are so wide and they won't go through the wall. But you have to go. Something is pushing you in waves, so forceful, and you feel the need to leave this place. You can't stay there. You can't stand it any longer. You have to leave. And you struggle and you wiggle your shoulders against walls. And it's getting dark all of a sudden. You don't know where you are. And you need to go out, away, away, away. And you push more and you push with your feet and you wiggle with your shoulder and you feel the wall around you and you want to go out. And struggle and struggling and more struggle. And all of a sudden, it becomes light around the head. And the whole body is still squeezed. But the head is free. You can't believe it. And you want this for the whole body. You want this feeling of freedom. And you want to get out. And so now with more energy, you're struggling to get your shoulders out. Give them the same freedom. Out and out and out. And then the sudden the shoulders slipping. And then the rest of the body slips. It's very easy. And you feel so relieved all of a sudden. And some warm hands grabbing you, and you are lying on the warm belly of your mother. And all you can think of is, oh, getting to the breast of the mother and get your first sip of milk. And you're struggling, crawling up the belly, starting to scream, enjoying to be able to breathe. And finally finding the breast of the mother. Taking the lips around it, and the warm flow of milk is the utmost joy. And then you hear the voice of your mother. Hello, my little baby. Hello, my little girl. I'm so glad you are here. You're such a good girl to make all your way. I'm so proud of you. So happy that you are finally here with such a good girl. Such a good girl. Such a good girl. Well done. You would bring in the nourishment of your mother, and you can't believe what joy you feel. Much greater joy than just the warmth of the womb. And nothing around exists, only you and the mother, and her warm words and her warm milk. And then, in your own time, and when you're ready, you come back into your happy space and you grow up to yourself that you are. And then you come back into your room, and whenever you're ready, you open your eyes. Take a deep inhale and an open mouth exhale. Okay, Mariella, let's start with you. How was it for you?
Good. It was very good. I started feeling I could feel how I was feeling in the womb before. You were still talking about being in the happy space. I was not in the happy space. I was like with all this anxiety coming up in my chest. And I could tell it was exactly the feeling at the time. Like fearful with excitement, but very fearful. And then was very clear when you mentioned, that you feel a window or a door opening up. I could literally feel that, like cold, the air or the cold in the head on one side in particular. And I could feel, then the shoulder, what shoulder was that came out first. So I could feel myself pushing, and it was interesting. It was a pretty amazing experience. Yeah. So
Wonderful.
thank you.
Well, really welcome, Mariella. Thank you for volunteering. I can see some of you have done the same exercise. Would you like to share? Just put up your hands and share what you have experienced. Ali.
Well, it was super strong for me. I feel a lot of different things during all the process. I was feeling so happy to come, but then I feel guilty as well. And at the end, I feel an extremely and very deep love.
So where did the guilt come in?
Well, because I know, like, well, my mom was pregnant, and then they immediately get married with my father, and always my grandparents knew or believed that I was an early born, you know.
Mhm.
I came at my 9 months, it was normal, and I always asked to my mom, and she told me the truth, but my grandparents never know about that.
Mhm.
And
And why did you feel guilt while you did the rebirthing? Where was that? Where did you feel that?
it was before, it was at the, yeah, well, at the
Ah,
beginning.
okay. And you have obviously released some energies, as I can see.
Yeah, well, because I know the truth, but well, my grandparents never knew about that.
Mm.
And yeah, and when I asked to my mom, she said my rebirth always was, super normal and easy and not difficult, and and I was like a kind of connection with a fair or something like that.
Okay. Well, good. Very good. Um, who else wants to share? Please unmute yourself, Wilna.
Yes, I wanted to say that I kind of find some similar feeling in there, which when you guided saying that we are in the womb and feeling warm and we find the window and we are exiting, it was kind of a little bit of more of a struggle and feeling that it was difficult.
Mhm.
And perhaps a pain and screaming when coming out. I didn't find the flow, yes, of the head, but not of the body. And wiggling, yeah, kind of helped, but it was not much of me pushing, it was much of my mother's effort.
Mhm.
And when saying that now you're in your mother's arms and she's receiving you with love and being happy that you're out. It was kind of like, feeling all the struggle that she went through and the pain, like the two things at the same time.
Mm.
More of the happiness was kind of the pain and the tiredness and her feelings
Yeah.
than the joy of having me in her arms.
Very good. Very
However,
good. Oh,
all her life she always said how painful it was and how she struggled days and almost a week before, always saying or expressing like it was a fatigue, a horrible experience, of how a child demands on the mother. I need to
Mhm.
go out and be, on a ride because you demanded this, you demanded that, and how I struggled to give you birth and all this.
Mm.
Somehow it kind of impacted us as a child. And so it's kind of what I felt. Instead of feeling that she was happy of having me, on the arms, it was more of a finally you are out. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good that you release this. Very good. Good. And it will come up more often. Yeah, during the course of the training, and that's good. That's why we do it.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Linda. Thank you. Anybody else? Let's see you.
I did this exercise once on my own because I did a few in one of the workshops. I think I did 2 rebirth in workshops, and I found them amazing. And it was different than the first time. The first time I felt a lot of anger and a lot of fear, and I had a chat with my mom about that. And she was very angry with my dad when I was born because my dad wasn't there, and I didn't know. But this time, I tried to connect more about the team effort that we did with my mom. So, and actually I've been missing my mom a lot. So when you said I just being in her chest, I just felt all of the love, and I just started crying because it's kind of like I've been missing her a lot. So that's why I did it, because I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, it is good. Good.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, crying is an awesome method to release energies, and you should never be afraid or ashamed of crying ever. You know,
Yeah.
this is the best method to release energies, and where is crying, there are trapped emotions, and they are released through crying. So just don't hold back, and give it as many chances as you can to release energies. Yes, and thank you, Rocio, for sharing that you did it already often and you still enjoy it, because that's what you do. You do it really often, and it's very enjoyable, gets better and better over time. And yeah, and it's, it's wonderful, a wonderful, wonderful experience. So glad you enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody else? Anybody else? How's about Kate? Do you want to share? Oh, Peter, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how we should start. When I was in the belly, I didn't want to leave.
That's typical. Yeah.
And also everything was quite greenish.
That's interesting, because that's actually when you are a little bit overdue.
Overdue.
Yeah, because it's so to speak the first.
Yeah, but I was an early birth. I was 1 month too early.
Yeah, but the green stuff in the water is when you actually it's the first part of your digestion as a baby, digestive. Yeah.
Is it not from my gut, from my
No.
open belly?
Maybe it comes from your open belly. Yeah, but there would be then it doesn't come through the anus, but it comes through your open gut. Yes.
Okay.
So that's the green you see. It's your, yeah, and then.
Yeah, and then I went through. That was actually good. And then I went just straight to my mom, and I drank the first time milk this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I was quite confident. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want me to share that how you were born physically? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because Peter was born with a very rare condition. He had an open belly when he was born. And this was a belly in the wound never closed or whatever. We are working on that. And when he saw the green, that was obviously from the guts, his digestive, from what he has digested in the belly, came out into the waters. Yeah. Interesting. Very good. Thank you, Peter, for sharing. That was interesting.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now, Kate, if you want to share.
I don't have a lot to share. I'm very exhausted, so I found it very relaxing. And I think I I don't know if I left my body, but I certainly left meditation. I didn't go through the birthing process particularly. I was just floating there.
Floating out. Nice.
It was very comfortable and lovely, but I didn't have an experience of being born.
That's a good feedback, because what I also want to show you in this exercise, or in this rebirthing, which was more than an exercise, with this actual rebirthing, is how you guide in yourself and people you work with into the alpha state. Now, remember, that is the basic of all work. Like when you want to heal, you need to have the people you're working with in alpha state. Otherwise, there's no spiritual healing possible. And signs of being in the alpha state is either that you are fully immersing in whatever guidance you get, or that you start to float. Because remember the beginning of the lesson, the electromagnetic field weakens when you're in alpha state. Yeah. And this is actually when the subconscious is allowed to come up, and you can actually go back in time, and you can go to problems you don't know about and see things you were not aware about, like the green stuff in the womb and things like that. This is all because your subconscious notices all and then hides it, because it's kind of scary information somehow, for the later, for the adult. And in alpha state, this is accessible. This is where we go when we heal. So you either go with the meditation, or you float, and some even fall asleep, because that's also a slowing down of the magnetic field to go and sleep. So these are all signs that you are actually reaching alpha state, and perfect, fantastic, and you do that like I just have done, with your voice, with the right words, with positive words. It is very important that this comes from the heart, what you are saying. It's not learned. You cannot read it off a paper, because nobody can actually, it doesn't do the job. You really have to embody it. You have to be the healer you want to be through love. Teach me how to heal so I can love. Teach me how to love so I can heal. So you have to come from it, which you all can, because you're all spirit. Remember the little animation. Third, mathematically, so one part of you is the spirit who comes from the world of light, where it's only love and compassion residing. Yeah. So it's nothing you learn. You are just accessing that when you work, while not working with your personality and not working with your emotions. That's all. And this is why everybody can heal. It's an innate. It's a spirit does it. Spirit guides, the spirit heals. That's what spirit does. So everybody can do it. It's just a matter of being able, and that's what we practice and train and learn, to shed away for this moment, not for longer. For this moment, the personality, the ego, and the emotion. You don't feel sorry for your client, for example, but you're also not proud of what you do. And that's it. And then when this is falling away, and with practice, you're accessing your innate healing ability, and guide your clients in the alpha state effortlessly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the feedback, Kate. Somebody else, did you raise your hand, Namshakti, or was this? Did you? Do you want to say something?
I didn't, but I can share.
Only if you want.
I experienced it first. I know my mom was by herself. My dad wasn't around, so I know she was alone. So I felt very lonely, scared to come out. Scared to come out. And then it felt very liberating, very wonderful. And when I gave birth to my last son, I gave birth to him in my home, and it was a very beautiful birthing experience. And I imagined it to be that way, exactly how I give birth to him. I imagined me coming out that way and experiencing everything, because that's exactly how I gave birth to him. I did that, and I had a connection with my son and me and my mother, and it was beautiful. So thank you.
Wonderful. No, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing and being with me in today's part 3 of module 4. I hope you got lots out of it. Tomorrow we see us again, and then we are talking finally about what we always do is regressions and past lives, which is very exciting, and we do lots of practical work with it.